Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the HEAD Foundation's webinar for our sixth Making Headway series called Becoming Leaders in Sustainability Education. I'm Hilary, and I will be the webinar MC for today. And we have a very exciting program for everyone over the next 2 days, and we really appreciate you all being here. Before we begin, I'd like to make some announcements. We have simultaneous translation of the webinar into Vietnamese and Indonesian. I'd like to apologize for the technical oversight in labeling the rooms. If you'd like to listen in Indonesian, please visit the Korean room. And if you'd like to listen in Vietnamese, please visit the Khmer room. My colleagues will post the instructions in the chat once more for everyone. So please take this time to go to your preferred interpretation channel. I'd also like to preface for our English audience that our speakers may speak a bit slower, and there might be a few more pauses throughout this webinar to keep our translators in mind and make sure that everyone is on the same page. So do bear with us if there are some short delays. Yep. And yep, the instructions should appear in the chat shortly for the interpretation. Okay, there we go. All right, and before we begin properly, I'd like to introduce two interesting ways that the audience can engage with this webinar. As you know, because it's a webinar, we are not able to turn on the chat for you guys. However, please type any of your questions in the Q&A box. We will be having a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so please type all your questions there. And more interestingly, we have a webinar Padlet. So I think we will drop the link in the chat box once more, but please go to the bit.ly link. This webinar Padlet is a platform for all of the audience members to share your thoughts throughout the webinar. Please feel free to introduce yourself, say hi, and our moderator, Dr. Trisha Xiao, will go into more detail about what this Padlet is about in a couple of minutes. Okay, and now, just to briefly introduce the agenda for today, there'll be some opening announcements for the first 30 minutes. And as you might have seen on the holding slide, we have three very interesting and experienced educators here throughout Asia to share with you guys their experiences in conducting education for sustainable development lessons in their classrooms. So first, we will hear from Mr. Thinley Wangchuk, followed by Ms. Ida Rahayu, and then finally, Dr. Ho Hulok, who will be joining us. And I will also like to, in a few moments, welcome our moderator to share a little bit more. However, before that, let me introduce the HEAD Foundation's Director of Operations, Mr. Vignesh Naidu, to share a little bit more about what the Making Headway series is about and why we chose the topic of sustainability education for our latest Making Headway series. So Vignesh, over to you.
Hilary, and a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on today, our sixth Making Headway webinar series. I know many of you have been looking forward to our Headway webinar series, and I've had many questions and inquiries from friends, not just in Singapore, but across the region, asking when our next series was coming along. So, well, today we have our sixth Making Headway webinar. But things have changed a little bit for those of you familiar with our Making Headway series. You'd have noticed that our handbook came out first. To some of you, this handbook, you may have seen it online. I realize that because I have a virtual background, it's not very clear, but you can see the picture in this slide. This handbook has been downloaded many times, and it's available on our website. And at the end of today's session and tomorrow's, we'll be asking for those of you who may want to receive hard copies. You can make a request through a Google form, which we will share later on in the chat box. But I encourage every one of you to go by our website, headfoundation.org, and download the e-copies of our handbook. Use it, print it, do whatever you want within your classroom. But at the end of the day, as has always been with our Making Headway series, we want to give you, the educator, the resources that you need to implement some of these innovative practices in your classroom. But as Hilary has shared, why did we choose education for sustainable development as our topic for our 6th series? It's a pressing issue. Many of us are privileged to have grown up and lived in a world and an environment that was relatively stable. But today, we can see the impact of climate change, of global warming, on communities across Asia. Our behavior, our practice in the past has resulted in catastrophic outcomes for many of us. And if we don't incorporate sustainability into the curriculum for today's young people, and we don't work towards influencing their behavior to be more sustainable, to be more sensitive to the environment around them, so that they too can enjoy development and growth, but development and growth that is in tune and aligned with what the environment requires. And so we decided on ESD because it is pressing, it is necessary to look and unpack this issue right now. The handbook, which I shared a bit earlier and which you can find on our website, has contributions from over 25 educators across 8 countries in Asia, talking about the unique lesson plans and curriculum, especially those that are suitable for classrooms in our region. Over the next 2 days, you'll hear from 7 of these contributors during the webinar series. And with them, you can engage with them and try to understand what will be best in terms of how you can incorporate some of these practices in your own classrooms. And you will see that ESD doesn't have to just be in topics like geography or science. There are examples from English classrooms, from social studies, from coding, from so many other subjects. So I encourage you, visit our website. I think you can see a QR code here, yes, and you can download the handbooks for free. And if you want a hard copy, put in a request. But remember, this is a sustainability-focused webinar and a sustainability-focused Making Headway series. So let's try to be sustainable. Download the e-copies and use them as much as you can. Ladies and gentlemen, I've spoken for a little bit longer than I should have. So now, with great pleasure, it's my opportunity to introduce the moderator for today's session, who has not just been the moderator, but also has helped us as an editor for the book, for the handbook, Dr. Tricia Xiao. Dr. Xiao is the Assistant Head of Humanities and Social Studies Academic Group at the National Institute of Education in Singapore, and is also the co-chair of the Sustainability Learning Lab at the same institution. She's the program leader for the Masters of Arts and Humanities Education program and leads the Humanities and Social Studies Academic Group's Professional Development program. She's a geography educator with over a quarter decade of experience in teaching in Singapore, and is especially interested in signature pedagogies that support sustainability and environmental education. Dr. Xiao, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Vignesh, and welcome to everybody who is joining us today from wherever you are. And let's just get started, first of all, with the introduction to the book. Please bear with me a moment while I share my screen. Okay, I trust everybody can see the screen right now. Okay. Now, education for sustainable development really requires educators to shoulder a challenging task. They have to enhance students' understanding and skills to sustain economic viability, social inclusivity and justice, as well as safeguard the environment. Now, given this broad scope, no one subject teacher can teach all aspects of sustainable development. But in this book, we showcase how educators teaching a range of subjects across schools and contexts approach sustainable development within and across subjects. How we as educators approach sustainability education is also intertwined with what we think the purpose of ESD is and the context we teach in, all of which suggests that we have a complex and challenging task ahead of us. So this book is really about providing some guidance, if possible, from environmental education research and by showcasing best practices by educators who share similar interests in sustainability education and education for sustainable development. For example, what are some of the best practices that we could be mindful of? Firstly, students learn better when they are actively engaged in the learning process. For instance, in inquiry-based learning or field-based learning. Designing authentic experiences that enable students to engage with concrete issues affecting their communities or their own personal lives is important. We need to create opportunities for them to apply what they learn to these issues as well. This is because students perceive what they are learning as relevant when we do this, and it increases their motivation to learn. Finally, experiencing success in taking action for the environment is a key motivator for sustaining behavioral change and willingness to advocate for sustainable development. Now, the chapters in this book, which I hope you will download, has been divided into 3 sections. They have been carefully curated to provide positive examples of how sustainability education has been carried out by educators in our region, with the hope that these ideas can be adapted to your school, your classroom, and can serve as a springboard for new ideas in your curriculum and lesson planning. Let me tell you just a little bit more about the book briefly. Section 1 of the book focuses on curriculum development for sustainable development with examples of cross-curricular integration. Some of these chapters also demonstrate how to integrate classroom-based lessons with experiential learning outside the classroom. Our examples are diverse. They span from primary, elementary levels of education, all the way through to pre-service teacher education in diverse education systems in Indonesia, Japan, Bhutan, and Southeast Asia. Section 2 provides examples of how to support sustainability education through the use of teaching strategies that encourage students to learn actively. The chapters showcase a range of strategies like gamification, inquiry-based learning, technology-enhanced learning. Students communicate their understandings through a range of formats like debates, the use of technology, in-class discussions. All the chapters invite students to reflect on the links between the content learned and sustainable development. And they invite students to consider the implications of what was learned to their own lives. Such tasks are really important to the development of reflexive and engaged citizens. Now, finally, section 3 focuses on how we can involve students in the process of designing and implementing solutions to real-world problems observed in our communities. Now, the examples here show clearly how educators have guided students to address problems in the real world, hopefully sparking a generation of citizens who can and will take action in support of sustainable development. Education for sustainable development or sustainability education is a long-term process. It involves many players, of which educators like us, we're just one part. But we do not need to be overwhelmed by this complexity. Instead, we can be hopeful and choose each day to educate our students positively. Now, before we start the presentation, Hilary mentioned the Padlet link, and I would like to just say a few more words about it. We really would like you to share your thoughts and ideas with us as you listen to the presentation using the links here. For instance, you can share what you have done in your practice, which is similar to what you're hearing today, or you can discuss how you will be using these ideas, or if anything has inspired you. We really want an interactive session. So on top of writing your comments, I invite you to heart or click on the heart icon for the comments that you really like. Feel free to comment on them as well. This is really a forum for you to interact with other members of the audience. But just a reminder, we are educators, so let's keep the conversation civil and productive. Okay, I'm now going to stop sharing and introduce the, oh no, I think that I will go into this segment first, and then I will introduce the panelists. Sorry for the error. So the first segment for today is the development of sustainable and robust curricula for ESD. Now, curriculum development through requires careful integration, all right, whether we are integrating across disciplines or learning modes. For education for sustainable development to work, there needs to be a systematic framework around which the diverse content can be organized and sequenced so that the larger knowledge, skills, and behavioral goals can be met. Now, before we get into the real meat of today's program, and I invite our panelists to share with us their curricula for ESD, let me introduce the panelists today. First, we have Mr. Thinley Wangchuk, Assistant Lecturer at Samse College of Education, Bhutan. I will tell you more about him when I introduce him directly. Joining us today as well is Ms. Ida Rahayu from Green School, Bali, in Indonesia. Last but not least, we have Dr. Josh Ho, Assistant Professor at the Institute of Technology, Thailand. Thank you so much to our panelists for taking the time to join us today. I will now move on to introduce our first presenter, Mr. Thinley Wangchuk, who will share with us about the Bhutan Baccalaureate program and how pre-service teachers in subjects like geography, history, and English work together and are invited to utilize their specialist subject knowledge to explore different dimensions of environmental sustainability in their community. You can find his chapter in section 1.4 of the handbook. Mr. Wangchuk is affiliated with the Royal University of Bhutan. He teaches courses in history and educational pedagogy to pre-service teacher trainees. I am really happy to add that he is currently pursuing a Master of Arts in Humanities Education at the National Institute of Education in Singapore. It brings me great pleasure to invite Mr. Thinley to begin his presentation. Thinley, please.
Thank you very much, Professor, for the kind introduction. And also I want to thank the HEAD Foundation for giving me this opportunity to share some of the experiences from my country. Well, my professor, she introduced me. I think I don't have to further add on it. But yeah, and currently, I undergo master's in National Institute of Education, NTU, and today I'll be talking about the sustainability, environment, and community, which is provided as a pre-service PGD course in Bhutan for the pre-service teachers. So it's about the role that teachers can play in the new curriculum that is Bhutan Baccalaureate, which was introduced in my place 3 years ago. And as we speak right now, the curriculum is being implemented around the country. It's still in the process of introduction, and yeah, it will take several times before it's fully implemented. Now, many of you might not know about my country, so let me give you a background or context to it. It's a small Himalayan kingdom which is located between Tibet and China, and it's mostly agrarian and size of Switzerland. So we still have the democratic constitutional monarchy, and with a population of less than 800,000. And it's highly agrarian based, tourism based, and hydropower based economy. And the place where I work is called as Samsi College of Education. It's one of the two teaching colleges in the country, and we focus on training of high school teachers, and also like we provide certain PG for other teachers, and we provide various courses like masters, PGD, postgrad in higher education, bachelors of education, and other PDs. Yes, and yes. Now to talk about Bhutan, we have to know that GNH is very important. What is called as gross national happiness. So gross national happiness, it influences policies and also education in Bhutan. For example, we have 9 domains in GNH, and one of the domains is about education. So GNH, it plays an important role. Which it was introduced in 1970s, and it somehow became associated like a brand related to Bhutan. Yes, and GNH, it's an GNH. Bhutan Baccalaureate is also inspired by GNH, which is an interdisciplinary curriculum. It focuses on 5 areas of development. So the 5 areas of development, as you can see, are cerebral, physical, spiritual, social, and emotional development. So the Bhutan Baccalaureate, it aligns with GNH principles and nurtures students' areas of development. So the topic of my presentation, which is community, sustainability, and environment, are all integral part of Bhutan Baccalaureate, which in turn relates itself with gross national happiness. So like in Bhutan, Bhutan Baccalaureate, these subjects are interconnected, and we talk about mostly we focus on sustainable development, environment, and community. Now we have to know that sustainable development, these 3 concepts are intact, and we don't actually like teach it as a different concept. Rather, we are actually the country's education philosophy is already intact, and it's founded on the basis of these 3 concepts. So even though the policies will change, these things remains constant. Yeah. And for sustainable development, now like there are many ways how we actually take care of that in our curriculum and also our education schools around the country. So what we do usually is like we provide platforms for many clubs in the schools, like nature club, like then also we have hiking clubs and etc., which provides the students to delve into sustainable development concepts. So other than that, our students are also like they also engage with the community to cater to sustainable development, like to learn about sustainable development. And for environment, I think our students are quite lucky enough because our topography, it starts from the southern lowlands where we have the plains to the mighty snow-capped Himalayas. So they see and feel they get to experience various kind of like environment for their study. They're lucky enough, but also at some point of time they get to witness the climate change and its effects, which are not necessarily which are not necessarily a positive things like flash floods and all, which actually does lots of degradation to the environment. So they get to see the first-hand experience of climate change as well as the nature. Yes. And now community plays a very important role in Bhutan Baccalaureate. So like we have something called as 7 gifts. So whenever the students, they go back home for vacation, they get to interact with their community, they learn different things. So for example, these are some of the guidebooks which instructs them how to engage with the community. For example, the students, they get to learn about the recipes which are like from the organic gardens in their villages. And there are also indigenous games that they get to talk about, patterns, and like also different kind of cultures. Basically, like we have 7 different gifts that they are supposed to learn from the community. Also with community, they learn about how to sustain themselves, not really like buy whatever like they require from the markets. Instead, they are taught about gardening. Like they get to experience their they get to experience farming with local community, where they learn about different crops, vegetables, and all for organic farming. Now, like my main focus is about the PGD Bhutan Baccalaureate class, which is provided as an orientation to the new curriculum. So PGD is postgraduate diploma for education. So since I'm a humanities teacher educator, most of my students who enroll themselves are like from humanities subjects like geography, history, and English. So in this Bhutan Baccalaureate class, to infuse them with the idea of sustainability, community, and environment, what we usually do is we divide them into 3 groups, like according to their subject, and we assign them the topic that they are comfortable according to their background. Yet we have to know that the topics are interdisciplinary, and it's multidimensional, and it's well connected with each other. For example, geography teacher students, they focus on advocacy against climate change, like for the classroom presentations. Yes, and they also talk about environment preservations, while history teachers trainees, they talk about sharing innovative practices and policies between community, so which is related to their subject. And yes, the English teacher trainees, they talk about the ways to enhance school conservation of energies and waste reduction. So these are like part of the lesson plan which I prepare usually to teach them. So keeping this in mind, I usually orient them the idea of sustainability, community, and environment to the students. Now, gallery walk is just a small part of the Bhutan Baccalaureate. So in Bhutan Baccalaureate, we are given independent autonomy to like experiment various teaching pedagogies. So like mostly what I do is I do something related to student centered. So even though my students usually they are most of them are adult, and they doesn't really require much of guidance, we still have to monitor them, and prompt them to be interactive with the classmates, in terms of gallery walk, which is one of the teaching pedagogy that which I experimented while I was teaching. So the photo that you see is about themselves, like engaging with their classmates. For example, we can see a gentleman here who's presenting, while we can see some of the ladies who are engaged in post gallery walk discussion forum, where they discuss about what they actually interacted and which they presented. So they discuss what they learned actually. Yes, the reflection now, like it's about the reflection part. It's from the schools where they are now teaching the teacher trainees. Most of them are already teaching now, and they of course they give us good feedback about how it benefited them from the PGD course which they had to undergo. So like we can see that most of them like could incorporate SDG ideas that they learned in Bhutan Baccalaureate. They also infuse idea of sustainable economy in the classroom. And also let's not forget about pedagogy that they do. But also we have to know that even though the things sounds like a successful program, there are many challenges that we have to know. Like Bhutan, the resources are very limited, so there are challenges. And like I said, the program, it's being implemented as we are talking, as I am speaking right now. I have to tell you that one of the main challenges, because of limited resources, we are not able to implement it at once, so we are doing it phase wise. Also, other challenges are like it's generic in nature, which is across all the countries. It's assessment versus it's about assessment actually. We want to like do it more like a formative assessment, but somehow we are also like dependent on our syllabus and exam-centric education, system. So that's why we have various challenges, and also like some of the socio-economic challenges these days that is visible in my country is high teacher attrition rate. Most of the teachers, they are resigning because of socio-economic reasons. That's why we have challenges in continuing and keeping consistency in this Bhutan Baccalaureate. So today, like my topic, it was more of like introductory about Bhutan and our education system. So I gave you certain ideas about gross national happiness and its influence on our Bhutan Baccalaureate, which in turn caters to sustainable development, community, and environment. Well, even though I was overwhelmed and I had some difficulties in sharing my ideas, I would be really happy to chat with you and share my ideas, in-depth ideas, which I could not in my presentation. So thank you very much, and Karin Chala.
Thank you so much, Tinle, for that presentation. What I took away from this presentation really is the importance of finding a common language even within diversity. So, given the diverse topography of Bhutan, as well as the diverse types of schools that can be found there, the the Bhutan Baccalaureate enables all the different schools who have been experiencing the different effects of climate change to come together and to have a common language to discuss the important issues related to sustainability education through curriculum. So thank you so much for that. And I really would like to invite the audience to share your thoughts regarding what Tinle has just presented in the Padlet, or if you have any pressing questions, to enter them into the question and answer chat box in Zoom. Now we'll move on to the second presentation. so from the mountains and plains of Himalayas, in Bhutan, we move to the tropical ideal of Bali Island, where Miss Ida Rahayu shows us how an interdisciplinary approach at the Bali Green School encourages her students to apply knowledge of permaculture and nutrition to an entrepreneurial school-based business. So please refer to chapter 1.3 of the handbook for more information. Now, Miss Ida is a teacher at Green School Bali and a founder of Cita Bumi Rahayu Foundation, an NGO focusing on education and sustainability. She is also the founder of the Seeds to Table program, which has been implemented across many schools, and is a best-selling author of the educational book, New Paradigm of Education Rising. Now, with an introduction like that, I cannot wait to hear what she has to share with us. Ms. Ida, please. Well, let's talk a little bit more then about sustainability education and what can be done by us in the what can be done by us as educators as we move towards a common vision. Now, I was looking at the Padlet earlier, and there was a comment about the importance of having a common language. Yes. Okay, I will just keep talking. There is the importance of having a common language so that ideas can be shared effectively. I think this is a common issue in sustainability education or in the education for sustainable development. Often what happens is that we all have slightly different understandings of what it all means. And as a result of that, sometimes what happens is that we talk at cross purposes. So clarity in terms of what we can, clarity in terms of what terms mean, what goals are, these really matter when we are implementing curricula for sustainable development. And I think that if I could refer back to Tin Lee's presentation, the Bhutan Baccalaureate actually provides us with that opportunity because across schools, they then share a common language. So what I would really be interested in really, and I would also like to hear from Christian Tumbaga, who has put in the first comment. I would really like to know a little bit more about whether or not in your countries or in your states there is a common curriculum. So do feel free to, put in your ideas into the Padlet. That would be really, really helpful. Another issue that has come up in the Padlet is from Francis Lok, is that indigenous games, patterns, recipes, songs, and dance connect really with students and also draw the line to environmental issues. Francis, you are absolutely right in that it helps students to connect to their identity, their sense of place and emotions. That is a really, really important reminder for us as we develop curricula for sustainable development. So I would like to hear from members of the audience. What are some of the more local or indigenous ideas that you use in your classroom that actually connect with your students' day-to-day life? Because it is really important that what we do with our students and the pedagogies and resources that we use for our students are relevant to their own local context, to their own communities, and for their own and that they see themselves and their communities within the conversations that we have in class with them. All right, now, I think I have gone on enough, and I would encourage all of you to please keep on putting your ideas in the Padlet. But now let us invite Ms. Ida to share with us her ideas on how she has implemented the Seeds to Table program in the Green School in Bali. Ida, please.
Thank you so much, Tricia. I'm so sorry I had a bit of internet connection issue. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this webinar. I would like to share, I'm Ida from Bali, Green School Bali. And wait, let me share my, okay. So here I would like to talk about holistic nutrition curriculum that we call Seeds to Table here at Green School Bali. So the idea of this course, or the objective of the course, is bringing in sustainability through food education to minimize negative impacts of food health, environment, and society around us, but in a fun and experiential and impactful learning. For some of you who've never heard of Green School before, here is a bit of a video of it. So let me share now.
Welcome to my world.
He means our world.
This is Green School.
A place where we make solutions happen.
We're teachers.
And students like me. And parents
Like us.
And members of the community.
And especially me. We come together
To make a difference in the world every day.
by living sustainably.
We learn how to solve problems.
We turn used cooking oil into fuel.
We grow our own food. We experiment. We innovate.
We're building a model for the future.
Join us. We stand together.
And support you.
To become more green. We are entrepreneurs. Because we want to make the world a better place. To be a model for the future now.
Through education, we engage with the local community.
We invite people from all around the world to connect with us.
And join forces.
We can make a difference.
Education is our ally.
The future of our planet is now.
We are the future.
So that was about Green School. Gonna move on. So now I cannot go to the next slide. I have to stop sharing again. I'm sorry. Okay. So I can say that I've been here for 13 years and I teach middle school on a subject that we call Green Studies, which is I think it's only here. It's only exists here in Green School Bali. So let me share a little bit about our learning principles. So we have learning principles that is called REAL, which stands for relationship centered and holistic. So the idea is like connections, relationship to self, relationship to other students, to teachers, to all community, and also very importantly is relationship to the community, to the environment. And then experiential and evolving, we do a lot of project-based learning. Like you've seen in the video that we do a lot of hands-on and experiential learning. And authentic and action-oriented, like how our learning is meaningful and impactful to the students itself, to the community, and as well as the environment. And we're focusing on on local issues and how we go around the local issues and connecting it to also like how we see it in a global and globally as well. And we also really focusing on the I-RESPECT value that we call I-RESPECT, which is integrity, responsibility, equity, sustainability, peace, empathy, community, and trust. So all of our learnings, we want to make sure that all these values and the skills, which is in the slide, we capture all of that into our learnings, into the students' learning. But in Green Studies in middle school, I got the opportunity to design, and I designed everything related to food. Why food matters? So human is the only creature on earth with the eating habits that give massive impacts on earth to the point that changing its climate. We all know farming now is most of it using the chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and we're killing the biodiversity because of our food by growing monoculture, which is we see massively all around the world. We cut down trees, the forest, to clear more land for our agriculture, to create more food for us, and we farm like in a human way. If you've seen there's a picture of chicken in trucks, we see this a lot in Indonesia. I don't know about in your countries, but yeah, it's not just chickens. I think a lot of people also know like those cows in the feedlot. This is how we create our food. This is what our food system like now like. And we have so much resources locally, but a lot of us now just getting imported stuff. Why do we need to get stuff from the other side of the world, which really can create more like higher carbon footprint? And I believe that supermarkets is now also what do you call it? It's a big thing in our food system. And you see in the supermarkets, there's a lot of food, which sometimes I don't know if any of you are looking at the ingredients before you buy food, but the ingredients, a lot of time, you can't even know, or you don't even know what it is. And the impact of that, sometimes the supermarket is, not sometimes, a lot of time is the waste problem. Most of the food in the supermarket are packaged in either plastic, cans, or paper, and that will end up into our ocean, polluting our air and our water. And here in Indonesia, also there's a lot of people still burning their rubbish, which is very harmful for the health of human and also the environment. So this is why food matters. So I created this course. It used to be a one-term course, but then I designed it as a 3-year course for grade 6, 7, and 8. And Sit to Table is started from grade 6. They're learning about permaculture, what is permaculture, and creating the edible garden using permaculture guild principles, and connecting with soils and what is healthy and unhealthy soil, how is it connected with our health and the health of the planet. And also like how plants can be medicine, so a lot of medicinal plants, and also nutrition through sprouts and microgreens. They have very high nutritional values, of course, with also like all these plants, like how they nourish us. And grade 7 is more about animals, like how animals in the ecosystem can also support us with our food, how they can be, they can support us in a sustainable way. So they learn about pollinators in the first term, living with bees, and chicken with deep litter composting, and tetraedophore, which is more pretty much about composting, like the worms and the microbes, and also how this microbes also being part of our health and environment in a fermentation process. So they learn about fermentation. And then grade 8 is focusing on food enterprise. They start the term with food philosophy, understanding about what food actually is, the history of food, and like what is our food system is like, and what could be the solution to that. And I would introduce also the food and beverage policy at Green School for them to get ready for the food enterprise, which is they create their individual project, the individual product that they can sell in a maker's market that we create specifically for grade 8. We'll invite parents, we'll invite other communities. And the main project and the most exciting project is called the Green Warung, basically the school cafeteria. Using the food philosophy that they learn in term 1, they manage the school cafeteria from applying for the job. So let me just go to the next slide. Okay, so this is about the food philosophy. Oh, in the food philosophy, they also create a website, or they have the options as well, is creating a documentary or videos, what to share with the community, what is food, what should we eat, how should we eat, when should we eat, etc. And the food enterprise, so basically the students manage the whole thing from applying for the job. So this is integrating like literacy, how they can create a resume. So they apply, there's a job opening in the warung, or we call it warung, in the cafeteria, and then they apply for the job. There's a job interview, and usually there we have also the heads of, like some heads of the schools at schools, they will help me during the interview. So I'm actually not the only one, I'm managing this, but like they learn a lot from the community around school. So the job interview, and then when they get the job, so these are the jobs that we have: the general manager and marketing, so all jobs in the restaurant pretty much, cashier, head chef, purchasing manager, cook, waiter, waitresses. And so they apply for the job, but they get the job, they manage, they create the menu, and then they sell at break time and at lunch time. They cook. Well, we have people that help them, but pretty much it was them that preparing the food, and then they get paid. So it's a real job for them. They get paid by the profit that they earned, and some of the profit they donate, that we're working with farmers or family around the school to grow organically, and in the future they could be our suppliers. So this is very exciting. A lot of students are looking forward to this project, and I also open to grade 6 and 7 as well. It's the option for a term. So this is an example of a real Wallace learning here at Green School. So here is one of the students' reflection that if you can read here, that she's it was a thrill for her to have the opportunity. A lot of students say it's like, okay, I don't feel like I'm learning here. I feel like I'm learning a lot, but I don't feel like I'm in a class, but they are in a class. So this is the power of experiential learning and how we can connect learning into the real world situation. Here I would like to share another video of the Green Warung. So here they're making their own pasta. So they're selling pasta, but they have to make their own pasta. We cannot buy from the supermarket. And they took the challenge. So the idea also that we, how our relationship with the community, how we also use all of the resources that's available in the community. The students also learn from the real finance department as an accountant. They also learn from the marketing team. So this is where we are connected with the community and learned with and from each other. So I think that's it, and I hope this can be useful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ida, for that presentation. Your school looks amazing. I love the idea of an integrated curriculum that is, authentic, experiential, in its orientation, and also systematically organized around the concept of food from seat to table, as you mentioned. It's beautiful, and I believe that there are many outcomes, right, from your program that students will benefit from. Knowledge and skills in the domain of work, in the domain of, the kinds of skills that will get them jobs, the kinds of discipline that they would learn from being part of a program like that, and then the direct relationship to the local community. I think that this is really a curriculum that can inspire many of us. And indeed, I'm already seeing some comments in the Padlet about this. So thank you so much for sharing with us. And I'm now going to really go back to the Padlet and talk about the Padlet with the audience. I realize perhaps that some of you don't know how to interact with the Padlet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you how you can interact with us using the Padlet. So if you were to, let me just get the Padlet open. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, and can you see the Padlet?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so if you were to enter the bit.ly Making Headway 1 link, and let me just do that live for you, and you were to enter that into your browser, this page will open. And if you are able to open in this page, what you can do is you can just click here, and if you want to say something about how the ideas are connecting with your own experience, or you want to talk about which ideas you are interested to take part in, then you can just click on this, type in what you want to say. So let's say we want to say, great job, Ida. And then after you've done that, you just click publish and your comment will be here. And then other people can just add their comments. I agree. And then you will see the comments. So I really hope that this helps you a little bit if you can, and allows you to participate in our interactive community. I'm just going to now pause a little while so that our translators have a moment to catch up with this unscheduled part of the webinar. And then let's have a little conversation around the comments that we can see on the Padlet now. In the meantime, I'm just going to remove my comment. All right. Also, please feel free to type in your own language. You do not need to type in English. So type in your own language and your translators will be translating your questions directly for us. And then I will be able to incorporate or integrate comments in Vietnamese, comments in Indonesian into the larger conversation. So let's not let language be a barrier. And if you are having trouble putting your comments in the Padlet, then, just let your translators know your comments and your translators will let us know. We really want to hear from everybody, not just the English language speakers. Okay, I'm now going to just take a moment to check in on some of the things that have come up in the Padlet I see before me and that you can also see on the screen. Let me just make the text bigger so everybody can see it. Okay. Here are some of the comments that have already come in that are new. Ophelia M. Patricio has mentioned that the ideas are all realities that should be addressed for a sustainability educator. And I really agree with this focus on the reality. I think that schooling should not be limited to just textbook knowledge or knowledge that they learn on the internet, and definitely it should not be focused on examples that are far, far away from our students' daily lives. So far what we have seen in the first two presentations is really a focus on students' own lived environments, students' culture in Bhutan. And in Ida's case, what we are seeing is students really being engaged in their local community of the school, and then also with the option of in the future supplying the local community with food that they have grown, which they have cooked, which they have sold. And this type of real world impact and this type of grounding in authentic context is really, really key to sustainability education. So thank you so much for your comment, Ophelia. We also have comments about, oh, and Ida, another one on the food philosophy, which I would like to connect to this comment about this comment by this anonymous contributor about concept-based learning. I think that this idea of seat to table is a great concept for us to develop integrated curricula around. Because it encompasses such a wide range of knowledge, skills, and dispositions that can be developed in a program. Of course, we don't have to use food to table as a concept. There are also other concepts that we can use when we develop curriculum. So for instance, we can look at concepts like equality. Right? Equality being an important concept in education for sustainable development. And we can also organize, multidisciplinary lessons around this concept of equality. I can see math people getting in as we calculate, profits, and we look at who gets the lion's share or the large percentage share in a concept like equality. I can see historians looking at, colonial histories and how this has affected the concept of equality and how equality is important if we want development in parts of the world that have lost out. Geographers, people teaching economics, people teaching English, all of the concept of equality can really tie together a large school curriculum. And what I do want is really to hear from you and hear your ideas as to how you can use concepts or, a big idea like food or equality or, or whatever ideas you have in sustainability education curricula. Another comment, the principles for green school plus practical learning. I think this is another kudos for you, Ida. And definitely this type of principle is important. And not only and also what we can see is that this principle permeates across many aspects of the curriculum. And that is really important. If I could just wind up this section, therefore, is that I think what we have seen in the development of holistic curricula for ESD or sustainable education really are a number of things. One, as shown by both our speakers, it being part of the real world context that students live in. Second, that it's systematically integrated around a central principle. And thirdly, that the resources that we use within our curricula should also draw on students' everyday lives, whether it's their culture, as we can see in the form of games and songs, or in their environment, as we can see in the case of the Green School. So I would like to now declare that we will have a break. Let's have a comfort break. Let me just pull out my slide. All right, let's take a 10-minute comfort break now, after which we will return for our final presentation of the day and what I hope will be a very interesting question and answer segment. So see you at the other side of the break, everybody. Oops. Hi, everybody. I trust you had a great break, and I'm really happy to kickstart the second half of today's webinar. I am so happy to see so many Padlet comments coming in, and I will be getting to your comments shortly. But now I would like to introduce the theme for the second part of today's webinar, and this is really where we move away from curriculum and dive into particular aspects of curriculum, and that would be pedagogies that support learning about education for sustainable development. Now, as with most classroom teaching, the choice of good pedagogical strategy does not in itself ensure that desired learning outcomes are met. What is really crucial is how the teacher designs and scaffolds the lesson using these pedagogies. So pedagogies, strategies, bells and whistles, they're all great. They have so much potential, but we have to use these pedagogies very mindfully. So in ESD, what are some of the elements of a good lesson? I believe that there are 4 elements, and we have already seen some of them earlier in this webinar. The first is whatever pedagogy that we choose, whatever approach that we choose, has to have some kind of relevance to students' lives and contexts. Secondly, even within particular lessons, there must be opportunities for students to actively engage with the learning resources. Basically, it means that they need to be doing something, not just sitting and listening to what we have to say. So, it's a little bit like what we're doing here. You're listening to us, but we're also hoping you'll interact with us through the Padlet. Thirdly, scaffolded tasks to help students to make sense of the content, and opportunities for students to demonstrate mastery of the skills and values through the tasks that we mindfully set for students. So in the presentations today, as well as tomorrow on this second segment of the book, which is about pedagogies for ESD, we hope to showcase examples of innovative pedagogies that can inspire learning and motivate learners. They also highlight one important thing that every educator should be mindful of, and that is that students should be given opportunities to articulate or reflect on their individual and community values. So I think that I've spoken enough, and it is time for me to introduce our last speaker for today. But also the first speaker for this section. I now invite Dr. Josh Ho to share more about his work, which is also found in chapter 2.2 of the handbook. In this chapter, students move away from abstract understandings of nature-based solutions by applying them to best fit solutions to the problem in the hydrology of the home city of Cần Thơ, Vietnam. Dr. Josh is an assistant professor of water engineering and management at the Asian Institute of Technology in Thailand. His professional experience in teaching, research, and consultancy span over the last 10 years in Asia, particularly in the fields of ecosystem services, nature-based solutions, hydrology, and physical geography. He has actively participated in multiple domains of pedagogy work. I know that for a fact. I've worked with him, and has demonstrated a keen interest in the integration of water management and nature-based solutions in the field of school education. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to invite Dr. Josh Ho to share with us his presentation. Over to you, Josh.
Thanks a lot, Trisha. Am I clearly visible?
Yes,
Visible and audible as well? And
yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, welcome everyone to today's webinar on becoming leaders in sustainability education. My sincere appreciation to the HEAD Foundation and also to Trisha for very warm address. Actually, as a physical geographer and an hydrologist, I am inspired to expand into the pedagogy during my interaction with Trisha during my time working in National Institute of Education of Singapore. So without further ado, please allow me to share my screen, start the presentation. Okay, so coming to today's webinar, I will be sharing my very humble contribution to the book known as Understanding Nature-Based Solutions Through Play-Based Learning. And I am presenting not as an individual, but on behalf of my research group known as NBS for Asia Research Group, since nature-based solutions has been my focus areas for the last decade. So you can log on into this website for more of the work that we've been working on. So as I say, I'm no individual, and I will first take one slide to introduce my research group. So I am an eco-hydrologist by training. So as I grow through my research, I've been working in ecosystem services and nature-based solutions. And currently within my research group, we are hosting students, graduate students from across Asia Pacific countries. So now we are hosting 5 master students, 4 PhDs, 1 research associate, and 2 interns from Europe. And by the look of it, we have 7 nationalities, a very international research group. So before putting the presentation into context, let me introduce to you the starting point of the presentation of nature-based solutions, pedagogy through place-based learning. So I'm currently acting as the principal investigator for one research project known as Ecosystem-Based Adaptations for Sustainable Groundwater Resources Management. So this research covers 2 countries in Cambodia and Vietnam, where we look on opportunities to use to employ nature-based solutions to enhance the sustainable management of groundwater resources across the 2 countries, across the transboundary aquifer of the 2 countries. So let me recall a little bit when during my time in NIE. So as educators, we always talk about pedagogy, what to teach, and the pedagogy itself, how to teach. And there has been always a dilemma on should we see it 2 different things on how you teach the students, how you interact with the students, and what kind of knowledge, what kind of domain knowledge that you can teach the students. So during my time there, I was a content person, but I was very inspired by Dr. Trisha and other senior colleagues at the time on how we can actually step forward and blur the line to bring the content into the pedagogy to make it a more impactful curriculum for the students. So I have kept that in mind throughout my training career to this point, where I finally had the opportunity to convert a purely research content into a pedagogy curriculum development. So this is the starting point of a research content. Then I had the opportunity, again, thanks to HEAD Foundation, I was invited to contribute to chapter 2.2 into this book that our colleagues have introduced several times through this webinar. I won't go into details because how the concept note is developed, how they're linked together, and the pedagogy settings are also introduced in this chapter. So let me tell you a little bit about how the Sustainability Education Workshop was actually conducted in Kantha University in May. 2 days, actually. We covered 2 days in May 29 and 30th, 2023, which is very recently, just 3 months back. So the instructors for the workshop includes me, myself, Dr. Trisha, 2 of my PhD students, Srishita, Thomas from India and Vietnam, respectively, and then also 1 research associate, Ms. Surabhi from Nepal. So we set out the webinar in order to use practical examples related to the Mekong Delta to teach nature-based solutions. And we inspire the teachers on how they can link this particular content, domain content, pedagogy into their teaching pedagogy. So the audience of the 2-day workshop includes teachers, high school teachers from both geography and biology. So the objectives of the webinar is to use gamification to teach about ecosystem services and nature-based solutions. Here again, I will emphasize that there are two parts within the curriculum development that we conducted, but within the limited time, I will only talk about the ecosystem services part. The nature-based solutions are presented in the book. So for those of you who are interested, please look at the book or drop me an email. The second objective is to develop a lesson idea that is contextualized for the region school learners. So we start with the theory of ecosystem services, and then through the interaction with the teachers and place-based learning, we explore opportunities to integrate the nature-based solutions into the curriculum of high school geography, and then to share ideas with other participants and provide constructive feedback to one another. These objectives. So first of all, the workshop, we need to cover a little bit of the theory. So this is not exhaustive. I just pick up some of the key points that we used as a theoretical starting point for our workshop. So first of all, we start with nature-based solutions definitions, which is a protection, sustainable management, and restore natural ecosystem services. So that's why the term ecosystem services would come first before we actually talk about the nature-based solutions. It's adaptable to local and regional system, including urban and natural environment. So inspired by these particular characteristics of nature-based solutions, we adopt a place-based learning approach to inspire the integration of nature-based solutions into the geography curriculum. So moving on, we also talk about the definition of ecosystem services, which I believe that some of you have been very familiar with as a part of a physical geography curriculum. So 4 types of services: supporting, provisioning, regulating, and cultural. So these are some of the theory parts that can get you an idea of how such a webinar or seminar workshop can be conducted. Then here comes the place-based. So after we discussed about the nature-based solutions and the ecosystem services, since the participants are School of Pedagogy in Kanta University, we bring the Mekong Delta. So Kanta is in the central of the Mekong. So we talk about the Mekong itself and the ecosystem issues, environmental issues that are threatening the ecosystem services of the Mekong. So trying to inspire the teachers to associate what we just discussed about ecosystem services with their own indigenous and local knowledge of the place of the living environment. So in a way, we try to encourage teachers to adopt a similar approach to bring the students to associate the discussed knowledge with the living environment, the students. So then we bring very, very close examples of issues, for example, dam construction that is stopping the sedimentation from entering the Mekong, then worsening the food security, and then pollution issues, etc., etc. So all of these are very localized to ensure that the teachers can easily associate it with the concept that has been discussed. Then after the theory part has been covered, we move on to the practical part. So because the idea of the workshop is gamification, so the workshop instructors also design a game kind of activity, and then we engage the teachers to play with us so that the teachers can refer to it when they design for the students. So as you can see here, we design like kind of a black card, which requested the teachers, the participants, to associate the types of ecosystem services with the environmental context, the ecosystem services, and the beneficiary. So all of these placards are prepared beforehand. We also prepare some blank placards so that the teachers or later on the students can write from their own understanding. Let's say if you have this type of ecosystem services, what else do you think can be associated with ecosystem services, and who are the end beneficiary on top of what have been prepared? So we prepare something like 30 placards from the CAN, or shall we say theoretical sources, and then we also encourage these teachers to be innovative or creative. Okay. So these are some of the pictures on how when the teachers are trying to associate the ecosystem services with the context and the beneficiary. So for example, here they are trying to associate the mangrove forest with the ecosystem services of providing flood protection barrier. And then the end beneficiary would be the communities. Then by the end of the workshop, the teachers are requested to associate what they have learned into their own curriculum. So showing on this particular picture is a product of a lesson plan for biology. So I will just take some very simple translation. So this is for 12th grade in the subject of biology. And this can be integrated into a restoration of ecosystem and sustainable development. So the teachers design a lesson plan covering the rationale why it is relevant. The resources that they can use, obviously, they can use our placards and then can also improvise to get more designs as long as it is place-based, and some of the comment on how to improve it. Okay, so these are the products from the teachers after the 2-day training workshop. And these are the lesson plan, periods of the activities that the teachers have planned for this particular integration of ecosystem services into biology curriculum. And with that, I would like to wrap up my presentation and pass the baton back to Trisha. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Josh, for that presentation where you have given us very nice ideas about two important things related to good pedagogy. One, getting students to draw on their local context and getting them to work on problems and solutions that are relevant to their communities. And second, on the importance of looking at games and gamification as an alternative way of teaching. So tomorrow we'll have a little bit more on gamification as well. And if you've enjoyed Dr. Josh's presentation this afternoon, maybe there'll be more ideas for you tomorrow. Now I'm going to just zoom in again on the Padlet, where we've had quite a few comments during the break. And I would just like to highlight a number of comments that have come in. And I would also probably like to open the Q&A with these comments. So I'm just going to open the Padlet. I'm going to talk about these for a while, and then I'm going to close the Padlet, and we're going to start the Q&A segment. There's so many comments here, and I do hope that our presenters will be able to interact with the comments that are in the Padlet that are related to your own presentation. So the first, there have been many comments that are appreciative of the presentations that have taken place so far, and I thank you very much for your positive affirmation. I think that's really important to all of us as we journey together in this sustainability and ESD space. Another comment that has come out, and which I think is really interesting, I'm just going to put out there, and then during the Q&A, I'm going to invite the panelists to address this. And these are some of the comments that I would like to begin the Q&A later with. The first is a comment really by this person. I like the ideas presented so far. I would like to try these in my school. And then a question on whether we have conducted any evaluation or impact assessment on ESD pedagogies. So presenters, if you have any data or responses or evidence of this, we can address this in greater detail during the Q&A. I do have I have conducted some research myself on students' nature connectedness and motivation to conserve the environment through experiential learning. And I've provided a link to a commentary that was written based on this project that we have done. And if you'd like to take a look at it, that would be great. Another comment that I think that we could also think about is really about the role of the community. So this is a question from someone in Singapore, I think, about how sustainable education needs to be very holistic, and that to take and that it is important to bring the community into schools. And therefore, perhaps that's something that I'd like to open to the educators that are in our panel later. For myself, I actually think that's a great question. And I myself have actually said that it's very important for school teachers to work with the community as well as people outside of the school. But in this article that I've written, perhaps you could take a look at it because I also raised some of the things that are really important for educators to do this type of work. We can't expect schools and teachers to work with the community if they are already so heavily burdened by the work that teachers actually have to do. So I know that there are some principals and school leaders in the audience. Perhaps you might like to share your thoughts on what are some of the things that you could do as well to provide the environment that is conducive for teachers to work closely with the community in their curricula and in their pedagogies. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing screen now. And what I'm going to do is I will start the Q&A segment. I would like to open the discussion to the floor and invite you to address your questions to the presenters directly. You can type your questions in the Zoom Q&A chat. I would first like to invite the panelists to turn on their videos. Yes, and so we have Mr. Tin Lee Wangchuk, Ms. Ida Rahayu, and Dr. Josh Ho. So perhaps we can begin with the first issue of how do you bring the community into your classroom? Would any of you like to comment on that?
I think I can start with that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, there are, like, I can't say that we are as teachers, we are not perfect. And I don't think we have the ability to teach everything that the students need or that the students need. And reaching out to the community, like what I do in my project, that I ask the marketing team to help to become the mentor for the students, and also the accountant, the purchasing team. Also here at Green School, we do a lot of reaching out to the community outside Green School, to parents. Actually, there's a lot of parents that have a lot of amazing resources that they're happy to share. And also a lot of organizations, especially here in Bali, a lot of organizations that we can connect with, that we can bring into our students, and we have a meeting with them, like what we can do together as a community. So I don't know if that answered the questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I think the importance of engaging parents and the resources that parents are is really something that we should consider more in the ways that we develop curricula and pedagogies. Thank you so much, Ms. Ida. Would any of our other presenters like to chime in on this question? Josh?
Perhaps I can add in on what Ida just said. So from my experience as physical geographer is that, I mean, community should not be seen as a community and inclusive. It should be also be kind of purposeful. We bring them to the classroom not just for the sake of having them in the classroom, but they should have a very clearly defined objectives. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is as a place-based learning. Let's take the ecosystem services as an example. So community is already an integral part. So without community, the pedagogy can be comprehensive or it cannot be complete to begin with. So who are the beneficiary? How they appreciate the environment, and then their living experience are allowed to share to the students, which the curriculum can never keep up with. So should be purposeful, and then see the community as an integral part of a place will make the integration of communities into your classroom a natural process. So you don't have to make effort because it's natural. I think they should be there in the first place. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Tinla, do you have any insights from your own experience as an educator? I think your microphone is muted.
Sorry. Yes, we do actually involve community a lot of times in our the new curriculum. Even prior to that, we used to involve, but we see much more involvement with the coming of John Baccalaureate. For example, like the 7 gifts that I talked about, it's all about community. You know? Like whenever students go back home for vacation, they interact with community, they learn everything from community, like part of the 7 gifts. Then also like oftentimes we invite experts from the community. Let's say, for example, the district environment officers and all. They usually visit all the schools and colleges to talk about sustainability and environment conservation. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think that if I may summarize, the importance of tapping into the resources of the community in our practice
Yes.
is something that we should think about, and which multiple presenters have talked about. But I would also like to problematize this a little more and ask whether you feel like, as educators, there needs to be particular support and systems in place. So what are some of the things that you think your school needs to put in place, right, for you to engage the community? Any thoughts on that? So for instance, perhaps in schools, teachers are really busy, right? And to ask them to engage the community takes up a lot of time. So what do you think that schools can do to enable teachers to do more of this type of work?
Maybe I can try.
Yes, please.
Actually, well, here we call ourselves also a community of learners. Actually, that's also our motto. We are a community of learners, so not just students, everyone else. Community of learners to make the world sustainable. The school really supported the idea of like connecting with the community. That's why like there is, for example, like say like parents meeting, like I was approached, but I was going to create a pollinator space, let's say, and one of the heads was just coming to me. It's like, wow, I know someone that would really helpful for you. I was just sharing my ideas, and then suggestions would come to me. I don't think I need to spend a lot of time like to find. I might need, to do some research. For example, I need to do the who can I connect, but our like the whole community can also, I can ask my colleagues, I can ask the management who has access to all those. So I think we're working together. I don't really see that making connection with community outside teachers and students is an issue.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your positive experiences with engaging the community. Over to Dr. Josh, who has a comment. Josh, I think you're muted.
Okay, sorry. So currently I am in touch with my alma mater, which is a high school in Vietnam. And there is a strong transition from a traditional classroom where the teacher give lectures and then also curriculum this is to cover, to a pretty much a project-based learning. So whenever you have a project-based learning, there is a lot of activities and opportunities to be catered. And actually, I myself also initiated a couple of projects with them. So through a research project, the students can be in part of the research project, being it for observations, interaction through questionnaires, or simple water quality collection. That can also upload the teaching curriculum of the teachers, but at the same time, also give the students to the field and observe what they have learned. So the key point here is it should not be thought as an expansion of the already stretched curriculum and the commitment from the teachers, but it's just a conversion of how the knowledge can be transferred and integrated. And at least to my very humble experience with the principals, they are quite flexible. So if the teachers can register that the students have already covered this domain through this project participation, then they can go ahead without having to try to keep up with all of the lessons by traditional lectures. So I think that's just my very small viewpoint. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that comment. It really drives home the idea that we need to think of engaging the community as part and parcel of our pedagogy, and what are some of the types of pedagogies that enable that. And so project-based learning might be one of them, because by definition, students are already engaging with real-world problems and having to engage with their community as they carry out the curriculum. So thank you so much for that. Now I'm going to move on to the second question, and that is a question about whether we have any evidence. Is there any evidence to support some of the pedagogies that we are suggesting, or some of the curricula that we are talking about today? Anybody from the panel that would like to take that question?
Yeah.
Tin?
It's not for me, I think it's about the curriculum. So, the baccalaureate was thoroughly reviewed by a group of academics from Oxford University, and it was found that even though it's unique and even though it's different, they found that it still had a place in the world when it was compared with IB, Singapore education, Japanese education. They found that it still had its own uniqueness. For example, like the involvement of community and the environment perspective. There was one time a comparative analysis between OECD Learning Compass OECD Learning Compass from 2030, which is targeted to be completed by 2030, and Bhutan Baccalaureate Learning Compass. So even there were similarities established, and yeah, it's about positive reception actually. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So external validation of our programs are sometimes very useful, right, in providing us with evidence of whether or not our program might work. So thank you so much for that. Would any of our other panelists like to chime in on this issue? Yes, please go ahead. Let's have Miss Ida go first, and then after that over to you, Dr. Josh.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you mean by evidence, like how like the learning that we've been doing here impacting the students, right?
Right.
Well, I can share just yesterday I sent I got a message from a student, a parent of a student who used to be here, and then how he continued doing what he learned here. Let's say he created a project, the fermentation project, let's say, and until now he keep working on it, and he keep doing it. So as a part of their food, what do you call it? Supplying their own food. He actually ferment more and more, and trying to go deeper into fermentation just for their own, for his own. And I've got like also parents kept telling me like how they're really not like their kids aware of the food that they eat. Like for example, they went to the supermarket and parents like, oh, let's check on the ingredients. What's actually in it? Oh, we shouldn't buy that. We shouldn't buy this. And then starting thinking about or talking to the parents about like, okay, how can we find alternative or solutions so that we can have a more sustainable option for this. So I think that's the evidence that like the impact that the students can share back to the community, which is firsthand their family. And I got some students also that keep doing like selling the products that they created in middle school, continue to high school. So I'm glad to hear that, and I hope that's answer.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm just going to let Dr. Josh chime in, and then I will just summarize the response to this particular question.
Thank you, Dr. Trisha. So I will not stop you for long for that. So this is just a follow-up of what Dr. Trisha and I did in May. So one of the activities that's left to be done in the workshop is we encourage teachers, or shall we call champions, who volunteered to take up the lessons that we have shared during the workshop and apply in their own classroom. So far I've checked with the Kanta University, who is the host of the event. So two teachers already did it. So we already sent a videographers to do an interview on the response of the students and also the teachers on how they were able to apply. So a take-home point to that is, again, coming back to the point where we should appreciate and acknowledge that the teachers are already very stretched. So if we want to streamline something, let's be in sustainability, ecosystem services, we should be considerate. Considerate as in not enforcing. It's not, this is something that you need to teach, put in your curriculum. But think, okay, this is how you can streamline into your existing. I emphasize again, existing, not expanding something new. So let's say ecosystem is already taught in geography or biology. Teach ecosystem services as a part of an ecosystem topic. So no additional work. Number two, design activity. So what we did in the 3-day workshops, Getting to Zero of Dr. Trisha, ecosystem services of our nature-based solution for Asia team, we combine the theory with the activity. So, and also the props, being the games and all of those materials to streamline the teaching of such a knowledge. So the teachers don't have to think from scratch. They can just use it. After the workshop, we even distribute that as a protocol for teachers to use. So they really appreciate it. So not only we tell them, hey, this is something that they should incorporate, but we also show them how by making examples. So those are something that I can share with Dr. Trisha also as a witness. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Josh. I think that this is a really good question as we advocate for particular types of curricula and pedagogies. It is very important for us as educators to be mindful of the impact of what we do. So our panelists have given us a range of possible ways in which we could think about the impact of our work. So from, if it's a large scale curricular change, then the role of bringing in experts to assess and accredit and validate your curriculum. But for those of us who are working in the classroom, which is a smaller space, we really need to think perhaps quite mindfully about how we can assess the success of our initiatives. And this could be in many forms. So like Ms. Ida has said, it could be in the form of seeing whether or not they have long-term change in behaviors, whether or not they continue to practice what they have learned, right? That could be one assessment or one measure for us to think about our success as educators. Or as Dr. Josh has said, when we develop pedagogies, are they being then taken up by other people? And talking to other people who've tried our pedagogies to see whether or not it has positive impact. In our classrooms, I think self-assessment of our pedagogies are really important. And I think student reflection, student surveys, these are also some of the ways in which we could find out whether or not our pedagogies are working. So thank you so much for that wonderful question, those of you who asked that, and thank you our panelists for their responses. I'm just going to pause so our translators can catch up with us. Okay, we also have a comment about waste management and disposal and an interest in that area. And to the person who asked that question, I would like to share with you the good news that tomorrow we're going to actually have a presentation on how a teacher got his students to take action in the area of waste management in Brunei. So I hope you can join us tomorrow for that. We have another question now on concept-based learning. And I think Cameron, I believe if it's the Cameron I am thinking of, she would be from Singapore. Cameron would like to ask our panel whether there are any STEM concepts that can be used to teach sustainability. So any thoughts on STEM concepts? Perhaps we can begin with Dr. Josh, since you work in this area a lot more than I do.
So thank you, Dr. Trisha, and I feel very humbled because I started as a content. So I would just like scope my sharing within geography and hydrology, and I'm not sure if that can be labeled as STEM or not, but I think that's the closest one I can get. So as sustainable is a general understanding, covers three aspects or three dimensions, shall we call, environment, society, and economics as a general discourse when we talk about sustainability. So from my own experience, the concept of ecosystem services explains how humans being society get benefits from nature, being environment, and then that can be converted into economic terms in terms of money. So we can economics. So that conveniently covers three dimensions of sustainability. So that's one concept that you can make use of to facilitate or streamline the discussion of ecosystem services with minimal effort. As we move away from ecosystem services, conveniently, you will have one of the fastest growing paradigm, being nature-based solutions, is one step ahead of how we can help solve societal problems with ecosystem services. Then again, three dimensions of sustainability also get their boxes ticked. So these two concepts are my immediate recommendations if you can think about to combine between STEM and sustainable educations. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Do our other panelists have any thoughts on STEM concepts that can be used within sustainability education? While I give you time to think, I'm going to chime in. I consider myself a member of this panel as well. I think that one of the concepts that I use quite widely in geography education, and again, I leave it to Cameron to decide if this is relevant to her question, would be the concept of equilibrium. I think equilibrium is a concept that is relevant in STEM, but also cross-cuts into many other areas of education, particularly when we talk about sustainable education. So, for instance, equilibrium in physical processes. So, you know, inputs, outputs within a system, and the importance of keeping some sort of equilibrium. If not, a tipping point occurs and we'll have certain problems. And this can be used broadly in science, it could be used in geography, it can even be used in economics. And I personally really like the concept of equilibrium as an integrating concept. The other one I really like in sustainability education would be adaptation and mitigation. I think these are again about how we adapt the ways that we do things to meet new challenges. In geography education, it's pretty standard. We look at ecosystems, right? We look at biology, we look at concept of adaptation. We look at things being out of balance, and then we think about adaptation measures that kick in, right, to try to restore balance in our natural systems. So I think these are perhaps some things that we can think about. And I would like to then invite our other two panelists to see if they have any thoughts on this issue.
I can try. Here at Green School we use a lot. So we have I don't know if any of you heard of the sustainability compass. So how we define sustainability, it's not only like always related to nature, but also economy. So the compass, like the N is nature, E the economy, and W is well-being and society. Like how we can cover all of that in the activity that we do. And then also I also use a lot of permaculture ethics. Permaculture ethics and principles, I think it's a way of, it's a lifestyle. That's how I would describe permaculture, and how earth care, people care, and a fair share is it should be a way of living. So we use this as our, I can say, the stamp for what we do here at Green School.
Thank you so much. Mr. Tinley?
Thank you. Well, I'm not a STEM educator, but STEM plays an important role in John Baccalaureate. For example, the model school where the curriculum was implemented, we have like the night vision telescopes and all, like which is accessible to all the students basically. And not only that, in that school now, like it's being spread to other schools as well, where they try to bring in modern technologies which can enhance STEM learning, let's say. Even though like I'm a humanities teacher educator, I do not really delve into it, but I see strong presence of STEM in Bhutan Baccalaureate, yes.
Thank you so much, Tinley. I have a question here that I think is quite interesting. We want to celebrate our successes, but it is also important to acknowledge that sometimes this journey is difficult and that we can learn from the problems that we face. So there's a question here on what are the challenges that you face in implementing nature and environmental issues in your lessons? Do you ever face any pushback or resistance? Okay, I'm going to give our panelists like 1 minute to think. And in the meantime, I'm going to say that, yes, sometimes the resistance that I face usually comes in the form of teachers, or because I work with teachers saying they don't have enough time, and that they just can't bring sustainability into the already packed curriculum. And I think that the way around this for me really is to help them to see, right? Work with teachers to see how what they're already doing can be easily adapted. And how we can actually incorporate sustainability education into what they're already doing. So like what Dr. Josh has said, thinking about changing how we're doing things rather than adding more things to what we're doing. Okay, over to our panelists now.
Yeah, maybe I can add in. So thanks a lot, Trisha, for a springboard, a very tough question actually. I would say that to an extent, at least I'm speaking from a Vietnam context, that there are still very much on two problems I can see. The first one is the silos, being that we try to bring teachers from different provinces. But then, if this is not from a top level Ministry of Education, then there is a resistance from the teachers to join. I think this has a lot to do with what we just discussed momentarily, on that they see this is already adding up. This is adding up to their already heavy workload. So they don't see it. So, I mean, until and unless this is a kind of like an order or command, then they're hesitant. So that's the first thing, the silos. And then the second thing that I can see here is the sustainability or the accountability of individual efforts, shall we say. So if even one of the feedback from the university that we have, that they really love our workshop. Thanks to Trisha, thanks to HEAD for facilitating the workshop, but they really want to have it as a more mid to long-term effort, so that the impact can propagate geographically and also chronically. It means that they want more long-term impact. So how to do about it? Because it might get very nicely implemented, then the teachers get excited, but when they go back to their day-to-day mandates, things get diluted and the excitement also get diluted. So how to strategically streamline STEM and sustainability education, I think have a lot to do with multiple stakeholders. We need government, we need buy-in from them, we need support from organizations like stakeholders, and then also from think tanks like HEAD Foundation and Dr. Trisha here, to plan for something more strategically rather than individual effort. So those are, I'm not, this is not from my words, this is just a collection of what I heard from the teachers through workshops. Thank you, Trisha. I hope this is somehow relevant to the questions.
Thank you, Josh. Ida, Tinley, any comments?
I think I'll be the unique case here because we don't really face any kind of challenges or pushover in terms of educating about nature and environment and sustainability. Ever since I can remember, from a very young age, we are introduced into these concepts. And I think because of this, we are still able to maintain major chunk of our land as forests. We never see it reducing. That's why we still have 70% forest coverage in my country. So these I think these are some of the testaments that proves that it's not a challenge in my place, actually, like in order to teach about sustainability, environment, and nature. I think I'll be a unique case here, but it's very visible and it's very evident. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. So really, there are challenges, but for some of us who are blessed, there are fewer challenges. Now, there are really many, many questions that are popping out, and we can't address all of them. So if we couldn't address your question today, perhaps what you might like to do is to copy and paste your question into the Padlet, and then perhaps I would ask the presenters to do a little bit of homework and perhaps respond in the Padlet, so that, if we have no time today to talk about it during Q&A, we still address some of the questions that have come up. A very, very Oh, sorry, Miss
Sorry.
Yvonne.
Yeah, I was going to add a little bit on that the challenges. Like I think like Tinley, we don't really have that what you call it issues like challenging here bringing in sustainability into school, but I would say like the impact this is I really want to say this because I cannot change all the students. We cannot change all the students what the students or our community will become. I cannot say that everyone here will eat healthy. I cannot say that everyone here recycle or have a sustainable way of living. What I would like to say is we are all educators. We are trying to do the best we can. The changes is up to them. What we are educators, we just want to inspire. We cannot change them. So I think that I would say it's a challenge. It's not easy to change the mindset sometimes, or but we want to inspire them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So really, it's about thinking about reframing challenges as well. Okay, we have many questions, and I'm just going to and I also realize we've run out of time, but I just want to highlight some of the questions that we need to think about and that perhaps we can also respond to in the Padlet. The first would be the question of what kind of state, how has our state, however you want to define state in your country, supported your efforts in sustainability education? And a related question really is about learning resources, right? So what happens if you are teaching in an area with limited learning resources? There's another question on, I'm not asking you to answer now, don't look so stressed, panelists, but to think about it and maybe respond in the Padlet. Also the idea of how do we engage different types of students? So for instance, children, very young children or indigenous people. There is actually a chapter in the book that talks about using indigenous knowledge, within sustainability education. And really a big one is sustainability education really all about environmental education? And the answer is a resounding no. And tomorrow we actually have a presentation about looking at social inequalities and that type of sustainability. So I would now like to close the Q&A and I would like to thank everybody for your questions, for staying with us, for participating in the Padlet. I've really enjoyed the sessions today. I want to thank the HEAD Foundation for putting together the handbook and for, allowing us this wonderful space to talk about sustainability education in multiple languages and on multiple platforms. I have learned a lot from my fellow presenters, Miss Ida, Dr. Josh, Mr. Tinley. Thank you so much for taking the time and for your quality sharing. I'm also very heartened by the interest shown by the audience. Thanks for the open dialogue and collaboration. And I hope that I will be seeing you all tomorrow. I think I hand the floor over now to the HEAD Foundation.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Tricia, and thank you also to all our panelists for sharing such valuable knowledge with us. Just give us a moment. Okay. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for hanging on. If you're still here, thanks for still being here. We do appreciate all of your questions. And like Dr. Tricia said, please type all your remaining questions in the Padlet, and hopefully, they will be addressed. I think there are many important topics covered here today. So to close out the first part of this two-part series, here are some important links. First of all, please download the handbook. It is free on our website. The e-copy is free. We do encourage everyone to download the book. While the webinar sharing is very informative and you really get to interact with the contributors, there are many, many more contributors featured in the handbook that we could not invite here today due to time constraints. So please download the book for a full experience. Also, the hard copy of the book is available. So please go ahead and register if you'd like to purchase a hard copy. I There will be a small cost involved. However, we do try to keep it accessible for everyone in the region. And so thank you so much again for joining us today. Please join us tomorrow for the second part of this two-part series, where we will talk to 3 more exciting and experienced panelists. It will be the same Zoom link. Some people have asked in the chat, so it's the same Zoom link. It's a recurring webinar. And yeah, I think it's still not too late to register for the webinar. So please share the link with your friends and invite them to join. And thank you very much. I think we would love to see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much for participating.